Hi, welcome to the next tutorial. Today we'll be looking at how to build on our skills and learn how to create this very simple infographic using Adobe After Effects. So anyways guys, let's jump in. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a new composition. So I'm just going to make sure that it's 1920. So now once we have our new composition, all right, we need to create a new solid for our background layer, and we're just going to make sure that we pick a dark navy color. Now you can do any color that you want, I'm just picking navy. Once we've done that, we need to make sure we click off the background layer and we need to go to our ellipse tool. We need to change the fill to none, and we need to change the stroke color. I'm just going to pick a dark gray. I'm just going to bring the stroke value up to about 200. Then I'm going to hold shift and draw a circle on my document. So now I'm just going to go into my align tools and I'm just going to make sure that I've centered that circle. So I'm just going to call this outer. So now what I need to do is I need to press Ctrl D to duplicate that layer. I'm just going to rename it, call it inner red, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the stroke down to about 120 and change the color to a red. Cool. So now once I've got that, I then need to go and I need to add a trim path. So all I have to do is just add a trim path and then I can start the animation process. So looking at this property at the end, I can now animate that, but we're not going to animate it in there. What we are going to do is we are going to create a null object, and we are going to go to our effects and presets and we are going to write slider and drag it to the null object. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the null object, open up the slider controls and grab the end and drag it to the slider. So now that they're linked, I can control it from here. So now if we want 3 different colors, we're going to set points up at like 30%, 30% and 40%. So what we need to do is we need to animate it in here. What I'm going to do firstly is I'm just going to bring the comp area to about 5 seconds, and then I'm going to trim comp to the work area. So now I'm going to start that slider control. So I'm going to put it to 0, set a keyframe, move forward to 1 second in time, and then this will go up, let's say 30%. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that these are easy ease keyframes. Cool, so that one works. So now to do the rest of the colors, all you have to do is duplicate it. So Ctrl D to duplicate it. All right, this is going to be called blue. The only thing that we need to do is we need to rename our slider for red, and we need to duplicate that as well for blue. So I'm just going to call that one blue. And I'm just going to drag the red above the blue so that you can see it. And then, so I'm just going to get rid of all of that. Go into my blue settings. First, I need to change the color to a blue. And then open up the trim paths. And then go into my blue slider. And then make sure that I connect the end to the slider. So now you can't see anything yet, but as soon as I change this end value to, let's say 60, all right, now I can see the blue one coming out as well. So to do the same thing for the yellow, we will just duplicate that value. I'm just going to drag it underneath, and I'm just going to rename that, let's say yellow. And I'm going to rename and duplicate my slider to yellow as well. So once I've done that, I then can go back into my trim paths again. So ellipse, trim path, grab my end and bring it up to my slider and just change the last value. Make sure you're on 1 second to 100. And then I just need to change the color for that. So go back into yellow, and there we go. Cool. So now we've got this really nice animation that goes for 1 second, and then we're gonna do the next thing. So the next thing after that is we need to add some lines that come out of these shapes. So what it is that I'm going to do is I'm going to add, so first we don't need all these sliders, but I am going to add a new slider to my null object, and I'm just going to call this one total, or total line slider. Okay, cool. So now we've got all of that. I'm just going to go click off all these layers, and I'm just going to get the pen tool, and I'm just going to click and make sure that I put in a little path like that. Now I'm going to drop the stroke to about 5, and I'm going to change the color to red. Cool. So now I've got that one line. So now we're going to animate it the same way by using the trim path. So we're going to go into our shape layer. We are going to call it red line. I'm just going to put it down here, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. So add trim path, okay, and this time we're going to connect it to the total slider. So I'm going to grab the end, and I'm going to grab and drag it to the total slider. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go about halfway, turn the toggle animation icon on, move to the end and put it at 100. Now I'm going to turn these into easy ease keyframes. Okay, and you can see there that it's working nicely. Just make it a bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. Alright, cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate that red line again and just call this one blue line. So now with the blue line, I'm just going to make sure that I've clicked on my selection tool, and I'm just going to move it down to probably about there. And I'm just going to change the color to blue. Okay, so now I've got two things animating. Now, if you want to change how this looks, you can go back into the pen tool and you can move some of these things down. Now, all you have to do is you have to just worry about where does the actual blue start. So I want to make sure that it starts when you can't see it, when the blue kind of arrives. So cool. So we've got that, and then finally we are going to duplicate that again, and we are going to call this one yellow. So now for the yellow, I'm going to change the color. So then I'm going to grab the selection tool and I'm going to just click and move it over here to this side. Okay, I'm going to get that pan behind tool, and then I'm going to click on the rotate tool and I'm just going to rotate that around. Cool. So now I've got all of those colors all animating in. Alright, that looks excellent. Alright, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to add a timer in there as well, or like a counter pretty much. So what it is that we are going to do is we can use this total line slider to do the counting for us, but I'm just going to grab the text tool and I'm just going to write 0. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I center it. Okay, so just click center, and then I'm just going to align it to the middle. And once I've done that, alright, there I've got a 0 there. So I'm just going to drag that underneath the null layer. And once I've done that, I need to open up the settings for that text layer. And I need to go into text. I need to hold Alt and press on that little stopwatch icon. So I'm just going to click and drag that to the slider, and then just to make sure that this is a whole number, I'm going to write math.round, open bracket, and then put the bracket on the other side. And when you're done, you can just click away, and now you can see that during that same animation, now the slider is actually working and I've got that coming up. If you get a decimal in here, it means that you did not write math.round, and math needs to be a capital M. Okay, cool. So now the final thing is just to add the text on the sides. So that's pretty easy to do. All we need to do is just go into our text tool, and I'm just going to write, let's say 40%. So now we've got all of those text icons in there. So the final thing that we're going to do to this is we are just going to link all of these. So I'm just going to bring all these down underneath the null layer. And what it is that I'm going to do is I'm just going to link all of them up to the null layer. So now you can see that the parent is the null one. And what it is that we are going to do is we are just going to create a scale animation. So I'm going to start by clicking on the toggle animation. I'm going to put it down to 0. I'm going to move forward in time till about half a second. I'm going to go up to 105. I'm going to move forward a frame, drop it back down to 98. Move forward another frame and drop it, or bring it up to 100 again. And so now, and I'm just gonna spread these out a little bit. So now they're 2 frames each. So all I have to do is just make sure that I put them as easy ease. And so now, actually we can just bring that forward in time. So anyways guys, that's another very simple infographic After Effects tutorial that you guys can follow. And if you wanted to follow and let me know how you guys go, please let me know. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.